The potential of artificial intelligence to transform businesses is undeniable. However, many organizations struggle to translate their AI vision into tangible enterprise value. This is often due to challenges in implementation, employee apprehension, and a lack of clear strategy. What's more is that employees have the fear of their job displacement or struggle to adapt to new AI-powered workflows. There was interesting Gartner study found that 47% of employees using AI feel uncertain about achieving expected productivity gains. So many people are talking about it, and we don't really know what is the real value and if we can trust this trend that we have in corporations. In my opinion, a successful AI journey requires a strategic roadmap, employee training, and a supportive company culture. But addressing that key areas may not be enough. And that's why today I have invited my guest, who is the Managing Director of Prediqt, Data to AI, a company helping corporates with complex data environments to transform data into actionable information using AI. Ricardo Arce has an impressive career. I must say, he's an ex-McKinsey, ex-IBM, ex-PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I think that we needed someone who has been going around all these journeys of accompanying corporations to transform through AI. Ricardo, I'm so happy to have you today, really.
Great to be here, Ivan. Thanks for inviting me to this conversation.
I guess that today this is going to be one of the most exciting days because I'm going to learn so much about what is going on in this world of AI and how corporations can leverage on their people in order to really transform their organizations. The reality is as simple. Many companies struggle to move from AI vision to tangible results. According to you, according to your experience, what are some common mistakes, pitfalls, and how can corporations really avoid them?
Sure. So, I mean, I would say the main pitfall is around not having a holistic view on AI transformation projects. So, and by holistic view, I mean only focusing on AI models and not considering, for example, people, not considering value, not considering data, which are key enablers in order to make sure that you can tap on into the AI opportunity. An interesting statistic from McKinsey mentions that 9 out of 10 AI implementations, specifically Gen AI implementations, never make it into production. And there's many reasons for this, but the main one is not having this holistic view. So you want to think about some, key learnings around these different enablers. So value, always value the money. This is the business play, not a tech play. 2, people. People drive technology, not the other way around. So over invest in them. 3, data. Without data, there's no AI. So you want to consider how you wrangle in your data, but also how you make sure your data is of utmost quality. So in summary, what you want to have is an integrated vision in order to pull in all these different pieces together, not only focus on the AI models.
Ricardo, what you're saying about data, because that has been a big problem for corporations. I remember back in the days, 15 years ago, when we were talking about customer experience, the first problem that corporation had, it is to find out data about customers.
Yes.
Now, is that difficult to collect the data using AI to aggregate the data and to read through different type of documents, or you don't have this difficulty that you had 15 years ago to aggregate this data?
I would argue that today we live in an abundance of data situation, both in terms of 1P data, which is first-party data that companies create, either by registering information from their customer, consumer, or collaborators, or from their suppliers, but also 3P data that can be acquired or leased or tapped into from third-party providers. The true challenge is not the amount of data. The true challenge is the quality of data. And
Mhm.
I have to meet an organization that doesn't have a data quality issue, to be honest. And the reason being is that we have today disparate sources. So it's different systems that feed into data, and some of these systems work with unstructured data. So think about unstructured data such as emails, such as PowerPoint presentations, such as Excels, or maybe if you're registering the conversations you're having through your call center with your customers, voice, or maybe you have video. So many different formats that need to be put together and prepped together into a single standardized database that creates huge quality challenges.
Hmm. So let me understand correctly. So this problem with data that I believe that is a big problem. So does it mean that the implementation of a AI project can be heavily delayed if the data is not correctly structured?
Indeed. So if,
There
if,
is
if
some
your
tricks that
data
you do.
Yeah. So if your data is not ready for AI, your organization is not ready for AI. And, and the fact is that data management, which is the concept of integrating data, making it of quality, and also putting in governance practices. And by governance, I mean assigning responsibilities to each process around data management. Um, it's the most uh, underappreciated job in the whole of the tech spectrum. Because
Yeah.
everyone wants to talk about AI. Everyone wants to talk about what the user actually touches and feels. Nobody wants to talk about what's happening behind the curtains. But happening behind the curtains is a lot of effort in order to make that data work. Um, Now, being underappreciated doesn't mean that it's undervalued. I would say it's the most valued component after value. So after value identification, it's about having your data in a correct manner. Now, these are efforts that usually take some time. What organizations are doing in order to speed up these processes is to work with data products. So similarly, like we work with products that are marketed to consumers, organizations are working on pockets of information, so data domains that transform into data products in order to solve the data quality issue in
Mhm.
piecemeal fashion. So not trying to solve the whole data quality issue at a time, but doing step by step. And this creates unlocks, especially if the data products are aligned with the priority use cases of the organization.
Hmm. There was something that I know that you did it in purpose. That you were when you were talking about the number of projects or initiatives related to AI that fail, you mentioned Gen AI. And
Yes.
I know, as a matter of fact, that there is a lot of confusion with these words between Gen AI, machine learning, and there is a bunch of funky names that people have forgotten. Can you help me understand, make it clear these different definitions? Because we use it. I mean, I even myself, I mix it, Gen AI, whatever, even machine learning. I use it in the same way. Can you explain a little bit more about these definitions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, indeed, we live bombarded by these different acronyms, and I don't blame people for being confused, especially because these acronyms do not really mean what they say. So let's take artificial intelligence, for example.
Mm.
There's not such thing as an intelligent model or intelligent computer. They're neither intelligent or dumb. They're just probabilistic models. So that's I think one of the sources of the confusion. Now let's talk about the semantics. So let's think of AI as a umbrella for everything else that you mentioned. So under AI, and I'm going to go from the most basic to the most complex techniques. You have expert systems, which are rule-based systems. Then you have machine learning. Then you have deep learning. And finally, you have Gen AI. Now, um, AI has been around for more than 7 decades, and people often forget this. Ever since computers made their way into the workforce, and the evolution of these techniques has been fantastic. So let's take each of these solutions step by step. Expert systems. Expert systems or rule-based systems, as the name suggests, are rules defined by humans that are followed by a computer. I don't know if you remember, mid-90s, IBM had a computer called Deep Blue
Yes, I
that
remember
that
that.
made the headlines because it for the first time a computer beat the chess master, which was at the time Gary Kasparov, in a actually a 2 year effort. So it tried first in 96, it failed, and in 97 it was actually successful in doing. But all what this computer was doing following rules.
Mhm.
Now, fast forward in time, we have machine learning. Machine learning are where the rules are not defined by humans, but the rules are defined by the machine. So the machine reads a lot of data and then define what are the most important pieces of data, the most significant pieces of data, and define, okay, these are the rules I need. A specialization to machine learning is deep learning, where the technique mimics the way our brain works with neurons and synapses and create multiple layers in order to unearth hidden patterns from the data and come up with these rules.
Mm.
And yes, the benefit is that these rules are very precise. The flip side of the coin is that it's very hard to understand or to explain what's happening with that model. And in 2007, Google, with a machine called AlphaGo, also made the headlines because for the first time, a computer beat the world master of Go, which is a Chinese game, which much more permutations than chess. Chess has a board that is 8 x 8 versus Go. And this version was 19 x 19 boxes. And through deep learning, AlphaGo was able to beat this master. Now, all these techniques I mentioned so far are what we consider traditional AI. And then comes along the new kid on the block, Gen AI, made let's say made its way to the mainstream 2 years ago with ChatGPT, but it's been around for at least 7 years, let's say. And ChatGPT separates itself from traditional AI in three ways. So first is the fact that it, as the name suggests, it generates different type of output. So it generates text, generates voice, it generates images, video, it generates code. It can even generate molecules, so a protein level for formulas. That's the first difference. Second difference is that for the first time in history, AI models are talking our language.
Mm.
So traditionally, all these different techniques, and even when I studied as data scientist, I had to learn to program. I had to learn how to code. So it was very difficult to interact with AI or AI models. Today, anyone can actually use a Gen AI model such as ChatGPT, Claude, or the likes.
Mm.
And I guess the third difference is more on the technical side, is the sheer amount of data and parameters that's being used. So in machine learning, when I build a machine learning model, we usually use between 20 to 50 parameters. In Gen AI, modern Gen AI models use billions of parameters. Just as an example, ChatGPT 4 is estimated to have around 1.8 trillion parameters. So we're talking about several orders of magnitude in terms of the amount of data that's being used by Gen AI. That's why we call them large language models, and not just language models.
Okay. Now, with what you're telling me, I mean, you're scaring me, Ricardo, because the thing is that I see already complexity in artificial intelligence, misunderstandings. You have mentioned the problem with the data. You have mentioned the problem with understanding how it can generate value because we misunderstand what we can do in order to implement it in an organization. So, if you had to summarize it for me, what could be the first step a company should take when looking to the implementation of AI solution? Should they start with a small project, a proof of concept, a minimum viable product, or there is something else in order that to start? Because you hear, and I think in our personal conversations, you have mentioned to me the most important thing is to start because otherwise
Yes,
we're going to miss the train. So how can a company just start in a simple way?
indeed. So I always tell my clients, start fast, start simple, but start now. And what I've seen works best is to follow a two-speed approach. So in one speed, you want to quickly experiment. So you want to build the proof of concepts and the minimal viable product as soon as possible. And you want to do it with the data that you have at hand. It could be messy data, with the capabilities that you have at hand, with the teams that you have internally. And you want to do it in quick cycles, 6 to 8 weeks, to future-proof your capabilities, to understand what's the value potential, to identify what potential blockers you need to work upon, but also to ignite a philosophy in organization of execution around AI. So you want to motivate and you want to excite the organization around AI. Now, this will create value, yes, but it will be incremental.
Mm-hmm.
Second speed is where you create actually significant value and you create competitive advantage, but it takes longer because what you want to do in speed two is take the time to truly identify how to link your business strategy with your use cases, prioritize those use cases, then identify what enablers are needed for those use cases to actually be implemented and adopted. So once again, you need to think on data, you need to think on people, and you need to think about on your models. Not only Gen AI models, but you need to think about all type of AI models. So AI at large. Actually, 80% of the value today in AI comes from traditional AI, those techniques I explained a few minutes ago, not only from Gen AI. Gen AI is a great last mile enabler, a great enhancer, but it needs to be combined, at least until now, combined with other techniques in order to tap into that value. So the approach is to have this holistic view, but in a two-speed approach.
You know what? I'm astonished that you are saying that most of the value of AI come from prediction models. Uh,
Yes.
I, to be sincere, I thought that it was about automation. That is the value that you can get at the beginning is more from automation. So how? I guess that for prediction, you need to do much more efforts, right? Versus automation of tasks that are a little bit boring or that doesn't use, in fact, the capabilities of an employee. Imagine that the production, you have several workflows in your ERP that can be automated instead of having some manual work in the middle, and maybe the person can be useful for something more creative, more human at work. So it's not the case, if I understand correctly.
Yes, and you need to think that traditional AI is not only about automation. It's mostly actually about prediction, but with discrete techniques, which differentiates from Gen AI, where you have probabilistic models that are extremely powerful, but at the same time make mistakes. And I think that right now the term hallucinations is quite well known.
Mm.
But we need to be aware that these models are not always precise. Whereas in traditional AI, you have the advantage that you can work, especially with highly computational, highly numeric use cases. You can work in a much more reliable fashion. And you can also tap into different techniques that will allow you to create value in your organization and then deliver the results through different interfaces, might be Gen AI or might be other interfaces. A good example of that is marketing. Like lots of discussion around the use of Gen AI for marketing use cases, for campaigns, for example. Create all the visuals in the campaign, etc. Or for an email campaign where you get a personalized message. The personalization of the visuals is done by Gen AI, or the personalization of the text is done by Gen AI, but the personalization of the recommendation per se, what the offer, what is the actual product, what's the actual timing, comes from a recommendation model that is traditional AI techniques. So a collaborator filter model, for example, or any other technique that might be used, that creates all the hard work on the back end, and then the visuals, the copy is done by Gen AI. So that's a perfect example to see the marriage of the two. It is what actually delivers value. You cannot do recommendation solely with Gen AI.
Mhm. I get it. I get it. Um, Now, in when you are talking about predictability, I'm in my head, because we live in Switzerland, I'm thinking about all these banking models with complicated financial products, where probably for a long time they have been using statistics, Monte Carlo models in order to have predictability, as you mentioned, of the future, how certain products can behave in standard situations. Because if I remember correctly, Monte Carlo model may not work that well if it is something that is quite unique, like a financial crisis all over the world, and that doesn't help so much. So what you're saying is that the predictability part is the one that provides the highest value for corporations, and it can be used for not only about creating new products, like in the financial area, but it also can predict certain behaviors from customers. Like, for instance, if I have a certain customer journey today, I know that this action triggers that for my customers, and maybe I have higher chances of repurchase. Is that correct? That we can go into that uh, area?
Yes, indeed. And these techniques have been around for quite some time. So let's maybe unpack that use case for a second. We're actually talking about use case around knowing your customer, or KYC, know your customer, where what you want to do is, first of all, you want to segment your customers. And companies have traditionally segmented their customers following very few variables. So, frequency, money value, recency. Those have been the three typical variables used by marketeers in order to segment their customers. With machine learning models, we don't need to identify what are the variables to be measured. We can say, okay, this is the data I have, demographics, psychographics, um, commercial data, etc. We might have, we tap into third-party data as well. And we can say, okay, these are the different segments that I can have. And it is what we call unsupervised learning models, because we really don't have an example to feed into these models to say, okay, give me these exact number of segments. It's kind of like a mix of art and science, where we say, okay, these are more or less the segments that have differentiated values. And we identify, okay, these are unobvious segments. So we might have two sets of customers that we've never imagined that shared the same attributes, because from the traditional purchasing patterns, we could not be identified. That's one piece of the puzzle, segmenting your customers. And all I've mentioned so far, traditional AI. Second piece of the puzzle is, how do I act upon that segmentation? And maybe a way of acting upon the segmentation is saying, okay, I'm going to build a marketing campaign that delivers similar products to a particular customer based on what cluster or what segment he belongs to. And then I create the recommendation model I was mentioning a few minutes ago. And then we tie it all in together with Gen AI, where we say, okay, Gen AI, please do me the visual. So each time a customer sees a particular email, it's tapped into his own preferences.
So the image of how it is being used in the real world came to my mind of I'm guessing Amazon, for instance, when they are creating the page for my Amazon based on my purchases has already been defined based on my previous purchases, but also fed with the behaviors of other customers who have similar tastes like me. So it's not anymore a manual work like in the past that saying, oh, if you like this, you may like this type of product. No, it's automatic. In milliseconds, information comes to me so that I have higher chances of purchasing a product based on what I am looking for.
Indeed, and the opportunities are uh, endless in the e-commerce space. I mean, if you think about what these companies are doing, they're personalizing the look and feel of the e-commerce site you go into. They're personalizing the products that you first see when you go into their homepage. And then when you go into their PDP or their product description page, they personalize also the what other customers have seen. That's personalized for you. Then when you go to checkout, the recommendations of what else to buy is also personalized for you. And even if you take it like a step back, based on, for example, what Ivan is actually purchasing online, I can go and find lookalikes like Ivan because I know Ivan is a very profitable customer. So I want more people like Ivan. So I go and look for lookalikes out there in the web. So really, personalization can take many different shapes and forms.
Mm. I totally guess it. And if you take that example, I would say that if you take my wife, this customer will be 10 times more profitable than Ivan. My wife can expand like there is no tomorrow online, by the way.
Mhm.
Anyways, I just wanted to get back to the core of the problem. So initiating the process of implementing AI, what would you say are the true essential steps for successfully implementing AI from finding the opportunity? Like you were mentioning, for instance, that we need to prioritize because there is many opportunities that can be targeted as
Yes.
patient number zero. Let's
Mhm.
call it that way. How do you go from these identification opportunities to measuring the impact? To
Yeah,
start
so let's go one by one through um, each of the steps. And we're going to go rank order and what delivers what's more important first. So value identification, as you mentioned. Value identification is about tying in your business strategy into your AI strategy.
Hmm.
And from there, identifying what business needs can be solved through AI. Because once again, this is a business conversation. And the identification of use cases can come from actually business requirements, can come from benchmarks. And today we can find benchmarks around every single industry and every single function.
Yep.
It's easy to tap in. It can come from external help. So in order to identify what are the use cases. Now, each of these use cases should be quantified in terms of impact, quantified in terms of feasibility to implement. And with those two criteria, or maybe several sub-criteria that conform those two markers, create a prioritization that will deliver a 3 to 5 year plan. So this is my AI roadmap. And with this AI roadmap in mind, I first have to ask myself is, what data do I need in order to fulfill each of these use cases? So I start to pair each use case with my data domains. This is the data I'm going to need. I'm going to need maybe customer data or sales data, or I'm going to need product data, or I'm going to need maybe HR data for certain. And from those needs, I can build another plan, which is how I'm going to ramp up the maturity of my data.
Mm.
And then I need to think about people because I'm going to need to have people to actually develop these use cases, but most importantly, to actually run the use cases and to operate the use cases and to use them, users.
Mm.
So what capabilities are needed in my organization to make these models work? And finally, I need to tie this into a change management plan. How I'm going to drive adoption? Because we're changing the way people work. And you mentioned something very interesting in your opening remarks. There's a lot of fear of people that AI is going to take their jobs.
Mm.
When in reality, what we've seen ever since the past 2 years, when there was, I think, a bit of hysteria that Gen AI was going to eliminate jobs, what we've seen is that these new technologies are creating more opportunities. So I would even argue that it's not AI taking away jobs from people. It's people with AI taking away jobs for people that are not jumping into the AI wave.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, the problem is that so we start this prioritization as you have mentioned regarding the maturity of the data, impact, visibility. Um, that doesn't tell me yet how to pick my first case, the one that is going to ignite passion around the organization.
Yeah.
Something simple where I can have results in 1 month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, indeed. So what you want to do is you want to pick the use cases that have the highest impact and highest feasibility. So they're the easiest to implement. And you're probably going to end up with a few. So how do you start? So you want to start the ones, you want to pick the quick wins. You want to pick the quick wins and many times labeled as lighthouse use cases because they illuminate the rest of the organization in terms of establishing best practices on how to build your first use case, but they also prove that there's value to be delivered and they create this excitement. So once you identify your quick win, one or two of these use cases that are high impact and high feasibility, you go all in into building, first of all, a proof of concept and the MVP. You prove the value, and then you want to quickly scale. It's very important to go over let's say the MVP chasm, because there's many organizations, I would say most organizations, that feel today that AI is not delivering to expectations because they haven't been able to properly scale or put into production their use cases.
Mm. And that's a huge friction in organizations. Now, I have the impression, maybe I'm preaching for my church here, is that very often company culture needs to be created in order to engage employees with this curiosity, and not only curiosity, is this idea of go and try and do mistakes. So, is there a trick, a way to encourage employees to do these 3 steps? Go, get curious, try it, fail a little bit, but just go. Is there a
Yeah.
way to do it?
Yes, there is, and there's, I mean, if you think about digital transformations at large, half of the reasons why they fail are all people elements, and I would say they're people elements related to culture. So culture is extremely important. And what are organizations doing? There are basically three key things that organizations are doing that are working in terms of driving culture. First of all, is having appropriate leadership, visible leadership and role models in order to instill or to motivate employees to actually work with GenAI solutions. And I see some of these leaders actually having outward communications about it. I see CEOs of banks talking about their AI and GenAI efforts publicly. And they're doing it for several reasons. But one of the reasons is because they want their employees to feel like this is a priority for the organization and that this is backed by the utmost leader inside the company. So that's one, role modeling. Two is about having appropriate communication channels and fostering understanding. Why is this important for employees? So how to tie meaning into what does AI bring to us? So yeah, we're going to unlock productivity, but what's the meaning for me? What's the meaning for my area? What's the meaning for my company? So at those three different levels, right? There's like different levels of meaning. We can even like go further. What's the meaning for society? You know? And then third, I would say it's around building capabilities and tying it also with appropriate formal mechanisms. So performance management as well.
Mm.
No?
I love that. So what I take out of what you say, and I tend to 100% agree, is about the importance of this role modeling. Leaders start first. People are going to mind behaviors. This search for meaning that is just not enough to say that this technology is going to be useful for the company, but it's going to be useful for you as an individual. If it is
Mhm.
useful for me, like to become less bored at work, I'm going to do it because then I found some meaning. Or if this is going to help create some impact in our society, let's do it. And then there is the third part that I kept is about the capability building. We all want to become better. We all want not to be replaced by the guy who learned AI 1 year before me, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
But that part, the last part about capabilities, is a challenge. How do you do that? Is it worthwhile to go and train people about ChatGPT or to have this? I remember that there is a good training made by IBM, but I found it too complex for my little brain.
Mhm.
It's for free, so that's why I tried it. So how do we train people so that they become curious and it ignites really this passion to move forward to use it?
Yeah, so three unlocks around capability building. First is formal training, which is the traditional approach. So you want to have either workshops or remote on-demand sessions, any type of formal training that might instill basics around analytics, understanding of how to use AI models, risk awareness, which is an extremely important topic, how to mitigate risk, manage risk, how to put guardrails in places, etc. So that's a formal training part. That's the most obvious part of capability building. Then comes creating center of excellences. So a center of excellence is a group of people, specialized tech people and non-tech people specialized in delivering these models. But in delivering these models, not only for the rest of the organization, but in enabling the rest of the organization in building their own AI efforts. So in driving self-service. So if an organization wants to truly become AI-driven or data-driven, they need to empower their users. Empowering the users is not easy. So you need to have this SWAT team that is helping users with their first use cases, with questions that may arise, with a micro capability learning opportunities, so to upskill, reskill the workforce. So center of excellence is something, it's a hot topic today in organizations that are looking to scale AI. And then last is around creating a community of practice. And a community of practice is a virtual community that's not necessarily created by tech people, created by people that are enthusiasts about a particular tech topic in AI, for example, and that gather every once in a while, every month, every quarter, to discuss one, successes, so case studies, internal case studies, two, share pain points, and three, just create a informal networking to foster future collaboration opportunities. And to wrap this topic up, another important stat that was published this year is that 88% of workers using Gen AI in their jobs are non-technical.
Mm.
So that calls for a lot of upskilling inside the workforce.
Hmm. There is already a certain level of interest, except that I have seen some too often too many people failing and thinking, "Oh, this is not ready." Like if you say, "Oh, I want to create an article about this," and they don't know how to feed the beast so that the article looks genuine, well researched, and structured, then they give up, and that's waste of time. You have mentioned this creation of center of excellence. How do you see it? Do you see it like is a center of excellence according to the service for a given function, like human resources, finance, or is a center of excellence regarding the type of pain points which can be common to different departments? What could be the best structure for the center of excellence?
Yeah, so the best practice is to have this a center of excellence which is function agnostic. So it cuts across the whole organization, and it works under a federated model. So it's neither centralized or neither decentralized. And by this I mean that there's certain responsibilities that are established in the center of excellence, such as defining standards, defining processes for the rest of the organization, defining what the capability building agenda should be. And then other processes are completely decentralized with their help, the development of self-service models, or even like more basic things like development of dashboards in order to present results that come from the models. And these teams usually work in a SWOT mode. So they're called upon from a specific area. In a specific area, say HR raises their hand and say, listen, I want to work on a performance management AI model. Okay, perfect. So we'll help you structure the model. We'll help you build the requirement, the functional requirement, and we'll guide you along the way. We'll handhold you. But we're not going to do it for you. We're going to help you do it. And then once this first model is developed, then HR wants to build a second model about prediction for this selection process. It becomes easier for them and less dependent on the center of excellence to work with them. But at the same time, the center of excellence might have pull from other areas, such as sales and such as operations, so that they're working all across the organization, prioritizing the different demands and making sure that the organization is being upskilled.
Ricardo, I want to leverage a little bit on your wealth of experience. I mean, eh, well, there is two compliments that I have to tell you. One is that from the side of the science behind the technique approach, you have a hell of a lot of experience. The way you explain things makes it understandable for a person like me. And then from the other side, you have this experience as a consultant, which makes that you are probably quicker to come up with understanding the complexities of a problem. And I guess that's more or less the value of the expensive people from McKinsey. Sorry for the joke, Ricardo. But and what I wanted to understand is what comes first. So imagine that I'm a corporation, so I want to embark in that journey. Does it come first? I go and ask for help to a consultant, or do I first identify an internal person who can be the lead to this for these efforts on AI and let him deal with that? Uh, I wouldn't know what to do first. Do I get first help to prioritize and get my priorities right before I hire my internal person? Or maybe I don't even need my internal person. What do you think, Ricardo?
Yeah, so one size does not fit all. So there's different needs in different situations in an organization. But I think there's two markers to keep in place. One is the maturity that the level of maturity, AI maturity or data maturity organization currently has.
Mm.
Um, So, for example, a organization with low level of maturity is probably more prone to need outside help than an organization that has a high level of maturity and have the internal resources to work on use cases or on capabilities standalone. That's the first dimension. Second dimension is the size of the ambition. How fast do organizations want to scale? So say I'm in the middle maturity stage, depending which maturity stage model you use, the Gartner one, the Cambridge one, etc. Okay, say I'm in the middle one, but I don't have a rush. I have to weigh this out. I might choose to do things internally. If I'm in the middle and I'm a rush. I see the value. I believe in the value. I want to tap into that in the competitive advantages. Then most likely this organization is when I want to call outside help. So I think to keep in mind like where exactly do you sit in those two dimensions.
Mm, okay. Tell me, in your with your experience, what are the most impactful AI use cases that you have seen across different industries? That impactful in the sense that it has created value and it was like you could have a good reach. It's not something made in a lab and nobody knows about it.
Yes. So I mean, I think that most back use cases are around use cases that have leapfrogged capabilities inside an organization. And I would say they're usually around the functions, the business functions that are more prone to AI success. So R&D, marketing, customer service, and software development. And let me give an example on R&D, which I think the example that I find more fascinating goes back to this molecule level formulation that I mentioned at the beginning that Gen AI model can create. And I've seen organizations create at the molecular level, tap into models in order to create new fragrances or new flavors
Mhm.
using these type of techniques, accelerating the work that humans typically do through uh, trial and error methodologies. And this is a technique that's not new. It's a technique that has actually been just used for the drug industry for quite a few years. Actually, been inspired from the drug industry. So creation of new drugs, not only creation of new drugs with new benefits, but also elimination of toxicity from drugs. And so this crossover between what's happening in the pharma sector and what's happening in the food sector, I think creates, fantastic opportunities. And I would say that's a use case that I've been most impressed about. And then you have other use cases such as anything around customer service, the
Mm.
way we're creating new opportunities to serve our customers, which is not necessarily having a chatbot. Chatbots do require a lot of guardrails today in order to make sure that they're safe and there are no crazy hallucinations might affect the company's reputation. But it's about co-piloting the people that are interacting with customers. Like a behind the curtains effort. So in sales teams, I've seen this having this prompts or guides on when to contact a particular customer, what to offer them, um, what to respond or what to reply to a particular rejection from a customer. So hand-holding effort from AI is creating significant value, and that I find incredible because it goes with that concept of people with AI are creating uncharted opportunities.
Hmm. It made me think, in fact, about back in the days that there was this knowledge databases, but where you had to type and be lucky to find the answer, even though everybody was capturing information, creating documents, it was very difficult to find the answer to a specific problem. And you're right, with the AI, you can find because there is understanding of the context, or even automatization of if there was a complaint X by a customer, say this. So at the end, that's more you are closer and more rapidly creating value. Then the other example, I was just thinking like back in the days. So yes, a chemist had to combine all these molecules and wait for the result in order to say this is
Yes.
the characteristics. Then there was maybe before my 25 years ago when I was studying biochemistry, there was this combinatory biochemistry but that was programming. It was an AI, and it was, and now you can in fact invest on patterns on AI helping you to create patterns that more quicker way, because even the programming part, I remember that it was like you had statistically more chances that you were right, but very often you were like you had 40% of chances of being completely wrong, even if you had a good code for this combinatory biochemistry. That's
Indeed.
super good examples and very relevant for this little Switzerland.
Yeah.
Ricardo, somebody, a CEO, someone in the senior management team may have this fear of not having starting a project of in AI and not having a return quick enough. Because when they start, they expect
Mhm.
returns like saying, is it going to be the return for a specific AI project in 3 months, in 6 months, all the investment that I may have? Certain AI specialists are super expensive, certain AI specialists are less expensive. So what could be the right expectations for a CEO who's listening to us and saying, yeah, but that I have heard that it costs millions.
The first thing I would say is that you're not alone because that feeling that you have is a shared feeling. And you mentioned a statistic by McKinsey at the beginning. BCG has a similar statistic. It says like 66% of interviewed people in their latest State of AI survey are frustrated with the returns that they're getting from their Gen AI efforts. And this doesn't necessarily mean that there's no returns. It means that there's not as enough returns as they expected. There's a bit of over expectation. And there's a wonderful quote that says, all new technologies are over overhyped at the beginning and
Mm-hmm.
underhyped in the long run.
Yep.
Um, so what I would say is not all domains are ripe for Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
And this is important to notice because it's much easier to start by the domains I mentioned a while ago. So marketing, R&D, customer service, software development, maybe operations as well, HR, but some other back office areas are not ripe, not yet. So the first thing I would say, start with where the technology is more mature.
Mm-hmm.
Start in those domains. And in those domains, pick one use case, identify your quick win. This value exercise that I mentioned before, it's something that, yes, I've done in 4 to 6 week engagement, but it can be done in an afternoon. But it can be done in a 2 or 3 hour session. Very indicative values. It can be done really quick. So identify where to start, pick your lighthouse use case, and prove the value before you do a major investment.
Mm-hmm.
So invest those 6 to 8 weeks, um, low level of investment, existing teams, existing data. Don't develop your own models, purchase them, even better, purchase an application that has AI on it. Um, buy versus build. These are, this is expectation phase, but you have to start in the right place. This is not all domains are built the same.
Hmm. Uh, So there is always the usual suspect of inefficiencies in corporations. So we always talk about finance because things could be automated in an easier manner, the creation of invoices towards how you connect it with the sales department. There is the customer experience part that is the usual suspects, and most of CEOs are aware that these are common problems that can, if they are addressed, then they can free the time for people to then start working on the long-term gains that you can get through AI. But first, you have to liberate them. Liberate these HR people who are just inputting data in Excels from for the different employees, so that they can
Mhm.
start thinking about value for the culture. You can start thinking about how to measure culture, because that takes a little bit more time to, if you want to use AI, how in order to have real-time data from different sources to understand how your employees are feeling or if they are not engaged. They need to have to be liberated already from the usual suspects that there is in organizations. So this allocation to easy wins, improving the common problems, that would be amazing, because then organizations can scale for the longer term. Ricardo, how can people reach you out? Because this conversation, I mean, we could go for hours, I guess. And the problem is that you and me, we're a little bit too geeks, and we can continue that conversations. Uh, how can people reach you out if they have more questions, understanding about what is the value that you can provide for organizations, especially now that you have your company in Switzerland, but I know also that your company is located in different parts of the world. How can they reach you out, Ricardo?
Yeah, so two easy channels. One is through my LinkedIn profile, and the second one is through our webpage. So it's Prediqt Data with a Q .com. I think that would be the faster methods of approaching me, and I guess ultimately for you as well.
That would be excellent. So
Yeah,
I'm going to put these two links, yeah, the link to your LinkedIn page
yeah.
and to the website. Ricardo, it was really refreshing to understand a little bit the approaches and and this major struggle that companies have, especially with data capability buildings, igniting the fire on employees so that they want to create the change, and understanding the value that it can create for organizations. I think that these are major challenges. Hopefully, this conversation can already make that people start the process of quantifying when is the right moment. But the right moment is already in the past, according to me, because it's not anymore something fashion. It's not
Mhm.
anymore just trendy. It is a fact that corporations are using it at big scale, and we have to take the train. Thank you very much, Ricardo.
No, thanks, Ivan. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation, and looking forward to future dialogues on the topic.
That would be great. Thank you, Ricardo. Have an excellent day.
Okay, you too.